Hello and welcome to another QPW edition of the Quantum Compass. It's wham bam, thank you ma'am time. We have some big incoming energies for this next 2 weeks. And as always, I'm going to be one of your co-navigators for today. My name is David.
I'm Bella. Hi, welcome back.
Right. So, yes, a lot of excitement here, as you can probably tell, because we have been looking at the incoming energies of these next 2 weeks as part of our preview for the Mayan Wavespell of the Yellow Magnetic Warrior, right, Bella, which is running from the 19th to the 31st of January. And we'll be closing out this very explosive, incendiary-filled January, we can say. And it looks like we are here. We are in the big moment that many of us have probably been preparing for most of our lives, and certainly this one. And without wanting to preempt anything, we are excited. We've looked at the energies, all right, Bella, and we think that we have something interesting to share with you in these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, so super exciting. Let's share the presentation.
Okay, let's bring it up and get into it.
So as you were saying, it is the Yellow Magnetic Warrior. It is a very important wave spell, and is the one that is going to catalyze us into the end of the Solkin, but also is going to show us a path. I'll talk a little bit about that. But before we talk about the wave spell, I wanted to talk a little bit about time and reality, because we are at this very important kind of crunch point where many of us are understanding that artificial time, which is governed by the 12 months Gregorian calendar and the mechanical 60-minute clock, have kept us in a very 3D reality, in a linear time, which is not the way time really is. This irregular measure of time creates effects in our space, our reality, what we see, what we think, and even what we feel. So because our mind is all the time plugged into this artificial time, we keep on creating the reality that is given to us by whoever is in control of the media, of the systems, and everything else. And so we are multidimensional, but if we focus on a Gregorian calendar, we're not going to be able to access all of these multidimensional realities and our multidimensional selves.
Right. And, I love this image that you've included here on the left, Bella, because that's often how, when I'm in meditation and looking at fractal time and how we are in the process of reconnecting back to the universe on the more 1320 time wave technology, it looks like this, actually, to me, often like the double helix, which I think is curious because somehow it suggests to me that our inner DNA is part of fractal time and not part of this circuit broken 1260 kind of time frame that we've been in. And if we understand that there really is a 1320, there is a 13th sign, there is really a secret 13, then we've constantly been cut at the 12th and we haven't managed to get to the 13th. And perhaps now is the time that we're going to see that process is rectified, recalibrated.
Yeah, it's 13 moons, 13 tones.
Right.
And part of reconnecting to being cosmic humans or galactic humans, or part of this evolution, is to understand the nature of time. And time is an invisible principle and is fundamental to the universe. And we've been disconnected from that flow from the universe for too long. And that's why we have the history that we've had for the last few thousands of years.
Right, and we have mentioned this before, and we definitely do a deep dive in it in the Mayan Time and Magic course. But for those of you that don't know, the time frame that we're in really goes back to, first of all, Julius Caesar. Well, we think it actually goes back to the Sumerians, but then is more concretely put into place by Julius Caesar around 50 BC. And then, of course, Pope Gregory puts his name to it and creates the Gregorian calendar in 1582, curiously after removing, I think it's 13 days out of existence. So there are lots of kind of rabbit holes to dive into in this one, but most of all, we can understand that somebody actually placed an overlay into our natural time.
Yeah, that 1260 frequency is actually, we talk about this in the Mayan Time and Magic course in the very first module, where we could go even to ancient Egypt, Babylonian times, and Sumerian times, where that frequency gets installed,
right,
which brings taxation, brings slavery, brings systems of governments. So all of that is tied up to the same frequency.
Right, and if you think about it, it shouldn't really come as any surprise to any of us in this modern simulation or matrix that we've been in that time has been tied to taxation. I think that says it all.
Right, so a little bit more about reconnecting to natural time. So this is the moment where we need to understand that our power is in the now, and that's why I brought Dandelion to be part of this slide. And time is not just numbers or what they give us in a Gregorian calendar. Time is a quality to be experienced day by day and a frequency that you can connect to. And time also is non-linear. It is fractal and holographic. And it is the part of that we need to understand better so that our mind reconnects to natural time. Time is not money, time is art. And it's something that we want to remember, that we are creators all the time. We could be creating art, whether it is through cooking or whatever you decide to do as your work could be art.
Yeah. Anything where there's creativity involved, really, or alchemy, where we turn one thing into another. It could be artwork, could be cooking, could be metalwork, woodwork, many, many different things. Gardening, creating seeds into plants, it's all art, really, essentially, when we're in creation mode.
And what we've been doing with the quantum compass is reconnect to this natural time, because time is the universal factor of synchronization. And that's what we've been doing, trying to reconnect, synchronize, and attune to the real natural time.
Right, and as Bella said, we've been programmed to think that time is money and money comes from work and that work is everything that we live for, etc., until we get to some prearranged date when everything's going to be okay and we get to retire. Unfortunately, that's not in the peak period of our life, and that's perhaps not the best way to do things. So we are, as probably most of you have guessed, big proponents of a reversal back to the original fractal time, because actually it benefits all of us and allows us to have more time to be creating art.
And this is a wonderful Wavespell. If you want to jump into the experience of living with the galactic calendar or the Solkin, this is a great time to do it. And I'll tell you more about it when we go through the Wavespell. But this is a good moment to reclaim our sovereignty from artificial time, and we can walk into new earth fearlessly, which is the main word connected to this Wavespell of the Yellow Warrior.
Right, I totally agree. I love that. Let's walk into new earth fearlessly and understand that 1260 was the matrix, and that matrix is really now in its final stages of collapse. So we're going to need something else to anchor to as we step out of the vacuum of that collapse into actually something that we've known probably in eons before, which is connection to the rest of the universe.
And so part of this introduction here is one of these quotes from Jose Argüelles, which is, "Who owns your time owns your mind. Change your time and you change your mind, and change your mind and you change the world." And this is the first thing we need to be able to do in order to jump into new earth. That's what we've been banging the same drum for quite a few episodes, because it is key. As we are receiving all of these new light codes and all of the information that is coming from the center of the galaxy, from the great central sun, from our own sun, deeper truths are awakening within us, and we need to be ready to activate all of these new codes. That's why it's so important to know your galactic signature or your archetypes, so you know what mission is about to be activated.
Well, we have a lot to thank the brother Jose Arguelles for really bringing through this information, downloading it from the etheric realms and putting all of the pieces together. Because we have tested this material a lot, like a lot of our tribe have over the last few years, and it's just amazing how precise, how accurate, how creative it is, and how it always seems to provide exactly what we need in the moment that we need it. Isn't that amazing?
Right, and so part of the Solkin is the 4 different directions, the 4 elements, the 4 colors, and we are now working with the color yellow because it is a yellow Wavespell, and we are finishing the yellow castle. So it is telling us that we are in a moment of harvesting, in a moment of ripening process before we go into the final stage of the Solkin. And so let's talk about the 13 moons. We're still in the 7th moon, which is called the resonant moon of attunement. And it's all about channeling the inspiration, the downloads, the alignment of our spine, the raising of the Kundalini energy and activating our channels for activation with the cosmic energy that is coming in and the information.
Also, as we're getting, so let me just go back there a second, Bella. We're getting ready for tone 8, which is galactic.
So this moon is still running from January the 10th through February the 6th. So all of this Wavespell is still going to be within this moon of the monkey, which is the totem animal. And this totem is reminding us of connecting to creativity, getting those downloads and new information that is telling us what is it that you're getting prepared to do now that we're stepping into the new greater cycle. Use your intelligence, which is part of the Wavespell and the archetype of the yellow warrior, which is be very smart. What do you want? Do your planning, but also do it with love and curiosity, and reconnect with your inner child, with these dreams from the inner child. We all had amazing dreams when we were children, and we want to bring some of that excitement, that passion, that those things that made us believe in magic. And so these are some of the keywords connected to this totem: reconnection to the inner child, innocence, playfulness, and magic.
And practical jokes.
So, as I was saying, we are completing the yellow castle. When we complete this castle, we move into the green one, which is in the center, and it's like the ether element. We complete a whole round of the 4 elements. This yellow one is connected to the earth element. So it's very appropriate that we are receiving all of this light here in the earth and in our bodies, because our body is the representation of the earth element. And so here we are in the Soul Kin. We're getting towards the end, as I was saying, on Kin 196 all the way through Kin 208, with a couple of galactic portals on day 2 and on day 8. So anything you want to add here?
No, I think I'm just making notes on when the galactic portals are in relation to the astrology and some of the other things coming up. So I might loop back to this in a second, but please go ahead.
Okay. So this Wavespell running from January 19th through January 31st. We've highlighted here the yellow warrior archetypes of glyphs. It's good to reconnect, to know what is your glyph, at least to have a picture or a drawing from it, because it's a code that you can start connecting to. So the Wavespell of the yellow magnetic warrior is all about being fearless. It's the moment to be like a warrior, but not to be ready for a fight, but more to be more zen, to be smart, to strategize, to do planning, but to go forward without any fear. To use your intelligence, be very mindful, but have determination as well. To be empowered. After all of this cycle we've been doing with the Soul Kin, at this point, we can be more empowered because we've done a lot of work through the previous wave spells. And so now we can reconnect with our inner guidance, to welcome grace, to reconnect to the galactic transmissions, to have this divine communication with our higher self and even with other beings. Galactic beings are now here helping us through this process as well. And we'll talk more about that in the rest of the presentation. But this is the moment to activate our cosmic consciousness, because we have interdimensional guides, but we need to know who we're connecting to. We need to have done our inner work so we can discern what energies we're connecting to. Anything you want to add?
But no, I'll let you finish and then I'll
Okay.
make a couple of comments.
So the shadow work over this wave spell has to do with not trusting that intuition, that inner guidance that we have, that gut feeling that we get, but we don't listen to it, or to not be prepared and plan ahead of time. Also feeling disempowered, that's part of the shadow of these 13 days. And to transform that, we want to access more of that divine guidance. We may have to leave the comfort zone and embrace challenges and changes and see obstacles as opportunities, because I feel there will be many changes over the next few days. Question information, that's part of our intelligence. So we need to question what we see and learn to discern that according to how we feel, according to our inner guidance, using our mind and our heart to be able to discern, and our gut feeling as well. We may be challenged with confronting and transcending fears, those that have been left for the last minute. We still need to confront those fears. Many of them may be connected to survival issues. So to the first and second chakra may be needing to release anything that has been stuck there for too long, and now is the time to release. So let's use our mind and reconnect and trust our intelligence and inner guidance.
Wow. So what I love about this is almost like how we can carry the child within the monkey secure here, but then protected by the spiritual warrior, which is our perhaps more outer, more adult self, having gone through our initiations, our spiritual initiations, and now we get to choose. Are we victor or victim, depending on how we've done the initiations, you know? And I think this is where the qualities of fearlessness, intelligence, determination, cosmic consciousness, interdimensional guides. This is the moment where we get to step up into a much more cosmic realization of not just ourselves as individuals, but us as a planetary species. This is something that we've been waiting for a long time. Many of us are having many more connections to off-planet beings and have been for a while as the preparations are being made for this moment. And I think it is important what Bella said to practice discernment. We live in a world where media comes at us from all directions in all moments of our day, unless we make conscious decisions to turn it off. In which case, then there is no media. There's just us with ourselves, connecting to the cosmos, connecting to our higher selves.
Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to add a few more notes about this archetype because it's so synchronistic, it's so perfect that it is here to take us through the next step. So this is the galactic guide. The yellow warrior is our galactic guide. It's mystic ferryman that is showing us the return path to the stars, to the cosmos. So we want to allow the yellow warriors to show us the way into this cosmic consciousness. The yellow warrior is the grace of the descent of the dove. And we've been talking a lot about the essence of the dove energy, and we want to be ready to receive it, which is receiving the messages from our higher self and from the Christ consciousness as well.
Yeah.
So we want to learn to trust this divine guidance and be able to journey to a place of no time, because there is where we can undergo these transformations and embody this solar energy, bring the sun energy, the solar, the amount of solar energy that is coming. We want to be able to receive it in our vessels and activate our solar heart and our mind as well, which is the cosmic human process that we're undergoing. This energy is also the conduit for cosmic communication. So if you've been thinking about, okay, what are my cosmic guides? How do I connect to all of these? This is a perfect opportunity to do that process. Because what the yellow warrior is doing is offering access to the universal web of consciousness. And this is like the mystic spider web that weaves the intergalactic threads. And it's a conduit of interconnected consciousness. And that yellow warrior is like the spider on the web that can give us all that divine communication if you are attuned, if you are aligned, if you're ready to receive, and if you've done all of that inner work and shadow work, because then you're ready to receive. We can receive these ripples of knowing through the central axis, which is our spine. All of our nervous system is that interconnection that we have. Our neurons are like these intergalactic threads. It's the fractal of that, so we can be ready for that. And we can use the power of love as an electrical current that will plug us in to the rest of the cosmos. And we can become anchored in this connection to cosmic consciousness, holding the Trinity within, because we all carry the Christ energy into the world, but it needs to be activated. And the crystalline grid network or the Christ consciousness network is ready to be plugged in into every one of us. And that's what we're going to talk more about with this Yeshua Cazimi. That's part of why we're so excited, because we see all of the dots being joining up.
Right, and also just to be clear, as we said before, we're not coming from a religious background. This is energy frequencies that have been really pouring onto the planet since Christmas, since the solstice, the Capricorn solstice. And in meditation, it's come to us very strongly. We've shared a lot in the videos recently. And what we're really understanding, this is not necessarily about Jesus or Yeshua, perhaps to give him a more correct name. It's actually about the Christo consciousness, the Christos, which is really the conjoining of the masculine and feminine energy together.
Plus, Christos is connected to crystal, is the crystalline grid network, which is what gives us access to 6, 7, and even 8 dimensional. I think even up to 9.
Right. Well, I mean, for maybe some of us, this is a new territory as we access these finer realms of consciousness. Maybe we've been surfing around in 4 and 5D for a while, and certainly we've been talking about this for a couple of years now, how to access these realms of consciousness, particularly working with sacred plant medicines and plants in general, which we'll share a bit more about later on. But yes, I like this, the crystal consciousness maybe, which is really, in the way that we understand it, yes, it's the Yeshua masculine energy on the one hand, but also the Sophia feminine energy on the others. And when those come together, it creates a new type of frequency, whether it's within us as individuals or maybe in partnership.
Mm-hmm. So as usual, the 13 questions for this Wavespell, which help you define or identify the purpose that you want to achieve within these 13 days. And we'd love to hear about how you've been working with the previous Wavespells. Have you had any manifestations? Have you been transcending issues? Because this is what we want to do. We want more people to be able to access this tool and to share it with others as well.
Right.
And the good news is that I'm reducing the price of the Mayan Time and Magic course. We're bringing it down from $365 to $260. So that's the new price, so that many people that have been asking about being able to access it for a better price, they can do so now.
Right. And this is, well, this is the time to do this work. As many of our tribe have been switching over, like we have, to a more fractal Mayan time wave technology way of living, we're starting to understand that we can live in this. And actually, many of us have started to lose track of the days or, dates because we're following a different imperative, one that is much more based on every day is an adventure, every day has creative possibilities. So this amazing course that Bella put together 12 months ago now, right? Is full of all kinds of really, really useful information about how to understand Mayan time and magic. But also we do some pretty cool deep dives, I think, talking about things like where did the Gregorian calendar come from? How did Greenwich Mean Time actually spurn an empire that took control of the world? And many other kind of more esoteric ideas.
The connection of the stars and the site and which stellar nations they actually connect to. So the galactic factor is also part of this module.
Yeah, a life-changing course for sure. So this brings us to a lot of what this Wavespell has really been about as it's been approaching towards us. We did put out a video a little while back talking about some of these energies, and I've also done a couple this week looking at the nature of particularly Yeshua Cazimi, which we'll get to in a minute. But what would you like to share here, Bella, about the Christo consciousnesses we've been experiencing?
So it's very much about what we've been talking about. We've been understanding through doing Heaven on Earth, which is a live course that we're still finishing now, that in order to activate our vessels, which is our grail, we need to work with the elementals. And the part of the work with the elementals is to integrate them within ourselves so that we can come to a point of balance, which is the ether, where we connect masculine and feminine in a higher dimension or in a higher vibration. So it's not so much about Sophia and Yeshua as beings, it's about the frequency of masculine and feminine in balance and harmony.
Right, and also as we've been going through this process, our whole understanding of who these two avatar beings actually are has completely changed. We now see them much more as time-traveling cosmic human, even maybe Jedis of the universe who've come back on numerous occasions to actually try and recalibrate the human direction due to many infiltrations and hijacks and many other things. So as we expand our awareness of ourselves, it's also interesting, Bella, I think, to see how we expand our perception of other beings who've been here before, trying to install the crystalline grid, maybe sometimes successfully for a while, maybe sometimes, as poor old Yeshua found out 2,000 years ago, apparently, with some more difficulties. However, even these stories have changed the more that we've looked at them. We had a very interesting Nativity Christmas, perhaps the most powerful biblical Christmas I think I've ever had. But at the same time, partly because we're understanding it with the removal of the overlays that somehow distracted away from the real essence of what it was all about.
So it's about even the things that we were working before we came to the topic of the Christ consciousness. We understood that there needed to be an integration of the lower nodes and aspects of the serpent beings, the masculine and feminine, because they were part of the lower nodes stuck in our first and second chakra, and also the underworld imprints that are in our world. So that needed healing, that needed bringing to the surface, cleaning up. So the highest notes of the female serpent, which is the healer, and the higher notes of the male serpent, which is the knowledge and the teaching, could come together to create this balance.
Right, and as we've been sharing with many of our tribe members who are participating in the Heaven on Earth course with us, really, in many ways, we can understand that as by balancing the inner elemental forces, because they also contain masculine and feminine with them. And if we have too much air, we tend to be too much up here. If we have too much fire, there can be a way to burn things. If we don't have enough fire, we don't get anywhere. So each of these elements inside of us has a multiple myriad of functions that actually help bring us back to a place of evenness and balance, and most of all, cleanliness energetically, because without all of that, we really can't access these sixth, seventh, eighth dimensional states of consciousness very easily or for very long. But as this energy is about to return, really, as we see it across the planetary grid in the next few days, we're all going to have to step up. And that's where the energy of the spiritual warrior comes in, because you need to be in that place of mindfulness. You know, we're all understanding more clearly in our tribe at the moment that every single action that we have, or every word that we speak or thought that we have, has a huge effect in the collective. There's a ripple effect. And once you understand that at a deep level, you then suddenly realize the responsibility you have to be mindful at all times, not just here and there, maybe a few days a week or when you're on a retreat or something, but every minute of every day. And that's big.
Mm-hmm. Nothing else.
No, I think that's it. So with that in mind, the activating the grail within kind of, we can say, joint package that myself and Bella put together, utilizing our various different skills as masculine and feminine healers and teachers. We've been sharing now with quite a few clients over the last few months to help them, first of all, clear any of that density and shadow that maybe still just needs a little bit of releasing, and then lifting that consciousness into a space where accessing these fifth, sixth, seventh, other dimensional realms is easier. And my job really, as always, is to clear the energy field and help remove the density, get to the point of origin. And then the second session is with Bella.
Yeah, where I do biodecoding, we go into any stuck emotions or programs that need to be released, transformed. And then we go into the galactic signature and the medicine wheel that we all have with all of the Mayan archetypes, which actually show us what is our mission, what are our gifts, what are our talents, what are we here to do, which is super important to understand at this point when we are receiving our envelopes, we're receiving our codes, our light codes of, okay, what did you come to do? Are you ready? Have you done the work? If not, you've got a little bit of time, but get ready because we are here.
Right, and as I shared in the little video I did the other day, looking at some of the energies of the full moon in Cancer that just happened, one of the stars that was getting triggered in the fixed star astrology, particularly of the stellar nations, was a star called Alpha Indi, which is really the indigenous shaman riding on the back of a whale. But the real message within that star itself is the remembrance of our own codes, our own DNA.
And the whale, it's the one in charge of the morphogenetic fields of the planet, of planets in general. So it's the one that connects interstellar worlds. So it's reminding us that we are part of a much bigger world, which connects galaxies and beyond. So we are part of the cosmos, we're part of the stars, and it's time to remember that.
Right, so we'll get to this in a second. That particular star is at 29 degrees of Capricorn, roughly, and it's going to be triggered by the incoming Yeshua Cazimi. So we can understand, and as I showed a bit in the other video, that this star is really helping us to remind that maybe, especially if we have natal placements there in our astrology, that maybe part of our divine mission here is to be the indigenous shaman riding on the back of the whale, helping to recalibrate the crystalline grid, the morphogenetic fields.
Yeah. Just like the Yeshua energy, the
right.
Jedi energy.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, as we realize more about ourselves, we realize that maybe some of us are in some ways cosmic Jedis, shaman Jedis, you know, and we say this with a little bit of fun, but I'm sure many of us out there around the same age as us, and maybe even our children too, love the whole world of Star Wars and particularly the Jedis. And in many ways, it was a precursor to give us a heads up long before we got to this moment of what perhaps is something that we already have been doing. Anyway, maybe that's for another show. I wanted to pull up now, Bella, it's quite, there are two slides this show. because what came to my awareness while I was putting together the astrological transits for this wave spell was, first of all, the Yeshua Cazimi, which we'll talk about in a minute, but also just how active Mercury is.
Very.
Very, and you'll see, I wouldn't normally include this many of the smaller transits, but the reason I have done is that Mercury pretty much goes to speak to everybody during this wave spell. So I'll kind of walk and talk us through the sequence with the charts in a second. But I mean, the timing of this is unbelievable. We didn't even know there was an asteroid called Yeshua
A few weeks ago.
A few weeks ago. That then also enabled us to find Sophia. We knew about the Magdalene asteroid, and then we also found the Merlin asteroid, which we also think is another aspect or avatar of the Yeshua frequency. So that Cazimi happens at a beautiful 8:18. The symmetry there is also great here in Central Time on the 19th of January at 29 degrees and 45 minutes of Capricorn. So a Cazimi is when the sun conjuncts normally a planet. But in this case, we were alerted to this, I think, with all of the reasons you're probably going to understand, that this is opening a portal. Whenever we have a Cazimi, the sun conjuncting an asteroid or a planet, it opens a portal to the frequency of whatever that planet is. And then it combusts it. It gives it the energy of the sun, lots of light. So we have this on the 19th. And of course, I'm sure anyone watching this show will be aware very much about what is happening on the 20th here in North America. And this, of course, is then followed on the 21st by the Pluto Cazimi. So you want to say anything about that, Bella, at this moment?
Right. So what we are understanding is that with this Yeshua Cazimi, so it's the asteroid called Yeshua connected to the sun. So they kiss first and they exchange information, and it feels like the sun and Yeshua walking together into the new into Aquarius, so that they both come and talk to Pluto, given the new instructions of the new world, the new way of doing things, the restructuring of our world. So the deep transformation that we're going to go through, which I think is going to be super quantum as well.
Right. I mean, as always, whenever we discover these things and start deep diving and share it with some of our tribe, and we all start pulling bits and pieces together, it's just incredible the synchronicities that we weren't aware of until we start looking, which in itself is very quantum, really. And, you know, we can see here that this Cazimi happens in the morning, and then roughly about, 6 hours later, the sun enters Aquarius, which I think is also pretty significant in this moment. You know, a lot of talk about the Aquarian age, a lot of talk about technology, even artificial intelligence. Is it something we can work with? Do we need to be careful? These are all questions at the beginning of the Aquarian age that we need to look at sensibly.
We're already hearing about it, about the different social media, the ones that are going to be banned, the ones that are removing the fact checking. All of those things are already going on. And the talk about quantum computers being part of our world and our reality. Some elites have had this knowledge and these devices for a long time, but it's just now being accessed by more and more people. So it's going to be a big change for all of us.
Right, so that kicks off day one of the Wavespell. Then day two, as we already highlighted, is a galactic activation portal day. So another moment where we can really connect to the heavens above and receive and send information. And that's when Mercury, the messenger, decides to start his charge through the last half of the sign of Capricorn. And in doing so, actually manages to create, we can say, harmonious in most cases, in some places a little more tense, but aspects with almost everybody else. And I think that's really interesting. Mercury, the messenger, on a day of a gap, starts his whole journey at 1606 of Pisces, where he is in a sextile with Saturn. And then, of course, we've just had, or just about to have, in fact, I think as we're recording this, the conjunction between Venus and Saturn in Pisces. And then, of course, Mercury moves quite fast. And so then sextiles Venus also on the same day, a little bit later in the day in Pisces. He's not content with just doing that. He also wants to speak to the moon. So he has a quick square with the moon and wants to have a little bit of feedback from the moon, who is at 18 degrees and 13 minutes of Libra. Once all of that sort of information sharing and back and forth with Mercury has taken place, which is the beginning of his charge, as we'll see in a minute, Yeshua then quietly and gently enters into Aquarius in the early hours of the 20th. So this is a real kind of high-powered, intense start to this wave spell, Bella.
Absolutely. And let's remember that the nodes changed as well into Pisces. The North node moved into Pisces, which is also telling us, remember that this is about the bigger spiritual connection that we have to have, our intuition, about the spiritual aspect in our daily life, I think is where we need to focus now.
Right, so to sort of bookend these 3 days with the kickoff of the Yeshua Cazimi, we then have one which many other astrologers are looking at, but I think is incredibly important, which is the Pluto Cazimi at 1 degree and 43 minutes of Aquarius. And if we understand that Pluto really represents Hades and the underworld, then I think we start to get an idea of what might be happening here. We're seeing a moment where the depths of the underworld need to finally have light shone into them so that everything that has been hiding down there in what used to be called the lower world. I've been pondering on this for many, many years. Why a lower world? Why an underworld? They're talked about differently in many cultures. Well, originally, I think there was just the lower world, the inner world, the world of the womb, of Mother Earth, of the inner Earth people. Somehow, when all of the recalibrations were made and the real light of the universe was somewhat distorted or recalibrated away from its true direction, and the matrix was installed, the lower world stopped receiving all of that light and became a place for things to hide, things that wanted to stay out of sight. And then it became the underworld. The underworld is no longer serving us, and we've been saying for a while that that part of the astral planes, the lower aspects, is needing to be cleaned up. And we're in a moment where we're paying attention, we can see that this is happening across the board. All of the things that have been hidden from humanity, the things also that we didn't want to look at, finally are going to receive that searing light, not just of the sun, but also of the Yeshua Christo consciousness finally beaming down and illuminating, transcending, and alchemizing the density once and for all.
And this connects to what I was mentioning earlier about how we have to bring more light to our first root chakra and second chakra, because that is where we have been gotten to. Not only the planet, because the planet also has chakra systems, but also our bodies and our genetics have been manipulated to keep us trapped into survival mode, fear mode, dependency mode. So all of these we do consciously. We bring the light back into ourselves, and we need to make sure that our relationships are of the light and meaningful from now on, because our bodies are temple. So we need to make sure that first of all we do all of the detox work, all of the healing work of the shadow, all of the cutting of cords, and all of that processes that we've been talking about for a long time, so that we can be the vessels ready to receive the light codes.
Right, and I love this analogy that's come to us that Bella's kind of hinting at there, which is really if we think about our sacral chakra and our root chakra as the underworld of us, which, of course, we are a fractal, of course, of the earth as well, we can start to understand that something happened around our solar plexus chakra. Either it got distorted, fragmented, which is our sense of self. It's where we emanate the solar energy from. And so if that got messed up and the light wasn't able to go down our central channel into those two lower chakras, then we start to understand how the underworld developed and how we've been manipulated, hijacked, even blackmailed somehow in those two chakra energy spots.
And it's the moment to bring light into this process, so that all of our channel, which is the process of attunement in this moon, is full of light, and we reconnect to our sun, first of all, and to the earth. And you visualize the sun, the light from the sun coming through your whole channel all the way and connecting to the earth, making sure you clear all of any debris.
Right, so if we're still in the place of not sure if we have any debris, our good old friend Mercury here has another conversation with Chiron this time to see if there's something that we need to learn from Chiron, some part of us that is still wounded, perhaps in those lower chakras, quite probably. And so that's where Mercury also continues his ongoing conversations. And I wasn't going to check this one, but it came to my awareness as we were putting the slides together. I was like, oh, maybe there might be a Black Moon Lilith flashpoint in the middle of all of this too, just to add more spice. Boom! Lo and behold, at 3:33, I kid you not, here in local time, we have a Black Moon Lilith flashpoint at 22 degrees and 56 minutes of Libra. And that is where the true Black Moon Lilith meets the mean Black Moon Lilith, and they come together in a momentary flashpoint, which, if you've been following this show for a while, you will know is also another galactic activation portal point to send and receive information. So we leave that up to you to decide how to work with that, but it's there on day 4, which is the day of structure and form. And of course, Lilith perhaps also representing in some ways some of the wounded aspects of the feminine. So we're having these momentary opportunities, and that's all it needs, momentary awareness sometimes, to bring to illumination, to release. And well, with Yeshua and the Sun and Pluto all in the mix, I think that we've been given the optimum coordinates to do all of this. That's just the first 4 days, everybody. Right? There's more. So it looks like a lot of words, and it is. I don't want to talk through all of the different aspects, but the reason I put the slides together like this was so that you could see just how much Mercury is having a chat with everybody. Day 5, he's really on it. He goes to chapter Black Moon Lilith to see what happened the previous day with the flashpoint. He then has an opposition with Mars, which we could say is the kind of the war, the god of war energy, the fiery energy, and perhaps Mercury's saying that's enough of that sunshine. I think we've had enough, and maybe we need to come to a truce, maybe a ceasefire, and whatever hostilities have been going on with you. And then after that, he goes to trine Uranus, which of course is a harmonious aspect. So I thought it was interesting, Bella, and perhaps if we're looking at the slides, we can see this, but the more difficult aspects that Mercury has are with Lilith and with Mars, and I think maybe and with Chiron. So it's almost as if like the harmonious aspects, the trines and the sextiles are really amplifying maybe the message that the crystal Christos consciousness wants to bring through on the Yeshua gateway on the 19th to spread it to all of the other planets. It's like, hey guys, there's a new management team in town. Things are going to be different now. But the three perhaps more troublesome transits are with, of course, Black Moon Lilith, Chiron, and Mars. I don't want to label them troublemakers, but maybe this is the place that we might find in our own charts too, where those lingering things that need to be resolved or released or transmuted might be. So it's really interesting, my ability to see this, how Mercury is wanting to have these conversations. What do you take from that?
It feels as if the messenger, which we could also see as a warrior that is traveling,
spiritual warrior.
Yeah, spiritual warrior, bringing the messages and letting everybody know that it's time for a new cycle. I was listening to an astrologer the other day, and she was saying that what is happening in Pisces at this moment, with the North Node, with Saturn there, and with Neptune there, that hasn't happened since the 1500s. I think it was 1523. So that tells us that the cycles we are processing now are so big. So it's like a big reset about to happen within the next couple of weeks. The fact that we have that going on, plus Pluto on a Cazimi with the sun entering Aquarius, is like, oh my God, it's all new. It's all going to be cosmic. It's all going to be quantum. It's all going to change and be big transformation very quickly as well. It's telling us that, let's get ready for this. And I hope that you've been following us and doing some of our courses, because we try to give the tools on what we need to be ready for this moment, more than anything, to have done our inner work and to have a vessel that is ready to receive the light codes, and for you to understand, okay, I know that part of my mission and my archetype and my galactic archetype is telling me I came to do this, so how do I get ready for that? That's why we have the navigation guide, for example.
Right. So we do put a lot of time and effort into making these presentations in these shows, as I'm sure you realize. We also learn a lot in doing them, so we really enjoy putting these things together, because when we do and we put our focus, we see these kind of sequences unfolding, and we have a little bit of fun with it. But we can see here that on day 5, Mercury is really busy. He has that chat with Black Moon Lilith. But then a little bit after that, it's like Mars goes to Black Moon Lilith in a square and says, hey, did Mercury come to visit you? I think we need to clean up our act, because it looks like there's a new management team in town, and they're looking at us and saying, hey, are we going to step up with everybody else, or are we going to try and go our own way? And what does that look like for us? So having a little bit of fun with this. And of course, this is in the Western tropical system, but all of these transits will still be applicable no matter which system you're using, because those are the angles they're at. We then move into day 7. We have a nice aspect between Venus and Mars, the masculine and feminine energies, trining there at 22 degrees and 5 minutes of Cancer, and Venus, of course, still being in Pisces. But also that day, Yeshua finally catches up with Hades and says, okay, buddy, I've given you a few days here to get used to things. How's it looking down there in the underworld? Have somebody switched back on the lights, or are there still a few of those rooms and caverns down there that need to be illuminated? So I think that could be a very interesting day when perhaps...
I think that is a key day.
I do too.
It's when there is like a proper handover of, okay, here are the new rules. We need to bring the light, bring the Christ consciousness. We're going to connect to the galactic grid. No more of that underworld business. It's not working. It hasn't worked for a long time.
So as we enter into day 8, which is a gap day, of course, connecting us to the rest of the Universe, we have Mercury finally getting to have a conversation with Neptune and perhaps asking the Lord of the Seas, of the watery depths, have we managed to see through all of the illusions, delusions, and everything that is hidden down here in the watery depths? So it's not just the underworld that's getting cleaned out, it's also the shadowy watery depths too. And we have another harmonious aspect here from the more feminine energy of Venus as she sextiles Uranus at 23 degrees and 16 minutes of Taurus. So that's I think that's a nice energy there, Bella, as Venus really starts to bring forth perhaps the abundance, the earthiness of that earth sign Taurus, and adds to the other positive energies that she's been building up after her conversation in that nice trine there with Mars. As we move into the following day, Mercury, relentless as ever in this sequence, is now chatting to our collective future, the North Node, which of course is also somehow our own individual destiny too. And that is right there on the nubs, literally the North Node having just moved, just about to move into Pisces. It's in the final few minutes, or we can say the first few minutes because the nodes are going backwards, of course. And it's like, what are the final things that we need to pick up before we kind of cross the finish line and the start line, which in the zodiac wheel is really Pisces and Aries. Mm-hmm. So we have that on day 9, and then I think we come to the end of the sequence here on day 11 in this particular wave spell, which of course day 11 is the day of liberation. And Mercury finishes his really relentless activity by first of all conjuncting Pluto at 1 degree and 58 minutes of Aquarius. And then shortly afterwards, later in the same day, he then goes to conclude his round of message giving and perhaps message receiving, and takes it to the crystal consciousness, Yeshua, and says, there we go, we've got everybody on board, hopefully, fingers crossed, boom, we're ready to go. And that is happening at 3 degrees and 24 minutes of Aquarius. And of course, Yeshua, being a fast-moving asteroid in comparison to Pluto, has already overtaken Pluto, having already met him a little bit earlier in the sequence.
So it does feel like Yeshua and Mercury are given the instructions of a new plan moving forward. And Pluto just has to destroy whatever doesn't work anymore and rebuild according to the new plan.
That's the way I'm reading this. And, you know, I'm sure we've all had feelings of like, we've been here before, everyone's promised this and promised that, and it hasn't come off. Well, the truth is it sort of has already. And if you've been paying attention into the astral realms and doing your multidimensional work, you will know that a lot of what many of us have been asking for a long time has kind of already happened in the back channels, in the astral realms. But in order to make sure there is a smooth transition from the old paradigm to the new, in order to ensure that not too many people get scared or freak out at the incredibly huge changes that are about to happen, positive changes. You know, there are many people out there still in the world of doubt, many people still not at all plugged in to certainly not the Christ consciousness, but things in general. And that's where we really need that energy of the Christos frequency, because we're going to need to be in our heart full of compassion, non-judgment, but still boundaried. We need to make sure that we're not absorbing other people's pain or suffering, but to be there for them and to hold space either for them as they go through it, or perhaps for the collective as well. And so I see this as a change of management, Bella. The underworld is no longer the predominant force. Hades can finally be released back to the sunlight. Maybe he's going to take a short break somewhere beside the sea for a bit, and let the new management team have a bit of a route around in the underworld, which will be renamed the lower world, I think. And perhaps then we can start to see a unified, harmonious, Earth-based toroidal field, which reconnects all of us, including Mother Earth, back to the universal time wave and the rest of the cosmos.
Right. And it may be that that conjunction of Mercury with Pluto brings out some uncomfortable revelations and information that many of us, I'm sure, that have been doing our research and our rabbit
hole burrowing.
we know about most of those things, but most people don't. So I think here's where we want to hold space and have some information that will help people digest this and move forward, because it's not about getting stuck in what has happened, but how do we bring more light into it and transcend it, move on.
Right, and I think that's really why the whole Mercury piece dropped in, and why Mercury is doing this, because he wants to gather as much intel from everybody. He wants everybody to be included. I think the only planet that wasn't included in any of those aspects was Jupiter, and Mercury, I think, already sextiled Jupiter just a few days or maybe a week or so ago, in the run-up to this. And, you know, as often when we look at these astrological transits and how they compare with things like the Yeshua Cazimi and, everything else that's going on, we start to see these incredible synchronicities and detailed moments where if you're paying attention, you can see the beautiful symmetry and really great Mother Spider weaving that crystalline web at work. So for reference sake, I've included here the two different charts we have on the left. This is for the Yeshua Cazimi, the day starting this wave spell. We have the sidereal, so you can see where all of those placements are in the 13th sign in the sky. So this is kind of where the impetus is coming from at a soul level. And then as we've been discerning or interpreting, we feel the Western system is showing us here how it's likely to manifest and when into 3D. Again, I feel sidereal is telling us what's already happened at the energy level and what's going to then manifest into 3D. But perhaps these are going to come back into alignment very soon, Bella, but we'll see.
So I think what this is showing us, because we keep on researching on the sidereal and see where it fits. What it's telling us is that the Cazimis are going to happen either way. Doesn't matter what sign. But what is good about the sidereal is that right now we can go out and have a look at what planets are doing what, where they are, and give us more of that coherence moving forward. Besides, we have a bunch of planets that will be visible in the next few days. It's like the first time that there are so many planets visible, especially on the 17th, 18th, and 19th of this month.
Right, and you can also see here, this is the same chart I used in the recent video, some of the fixed stars. So again, taking us back to the sky, we can see where they were getting activated on that full moon in Cancer just a few days ago. And of course, if you watch that video, great. If you haven't, definitely recommend pointing back to a lot of the energy is still very much in play and might give you some indications on how your alpha indie energy is, like how much of your inner codes have you reconnected with? How much of yourself do you really know? Are you still diminishing yourself to a strictly sort of 3D experience, or are you engaging in your emotional body, your intuitive body, your fifth dimensional self, or maybe your Christo self, 6 and above?
And the wave spell of the Yellow Warrior is telling us to reconnect to the cosmic energies, to the divine energies that we're connected to. And it feels very punctual that Yeshua is doing that job exactly as we start this wave spell. So more synchronistic, I don't think we can
Right. And also just included the chart here with a few other additions to it for the Pluto Cazimi. I mean, they probably could have taken a chart for any day on this wave spell. There's so much going on. And, as we've said before, we're not necessarily here to get into the nitty gritty of all of the transits. There are many other great astrologers out there doing that. But what we like to do is try and pick out things that maybe others haven't seen and then fit them into the context of the moment that we're in energetically, what we're seeing from our meditational work and our connection to our guides. And new frequencies that are coming through, like Yeshua and Sophia. And we know that many people are having similar experiences because they're telling us from their own meditational experiences that these beings are also visiting them. So this feels like a moment where something really powerful wants to happen in a way that I don't think has happened for a very long time. And rather than be scared of that, we should be ready to receive, but also still practicing discernment. This is Pluto after all, but he also wants to really bring to light, I think, with the help of the sun and Yeshua, everything that's been bothering him down there. I'm sure he's probably also got pretty tired of having to deal with some of these mafia bosses that have been living it up in his world. And perhaps he, like I said, is in need of a holiday, perhaps like all of us at this moment.
I think to have a much higher perspective of things, we understand that the planet was seeded millions of years ago by beings from Sirius, from the Pleiades, also from, what did I say? Sirius, the Pleiades, and Orion was very involved in it. And most of these groups are 4, 5, and up to 6-dimensional beings. And we've been living under many of the systems that were brought thousands of years ago by these groups. And every time the avatars that come representing the Christ consciousness and try to leave some of these message behind, which is connecting to the heart, compassion, unconditional love, being sovereign, being able to manifest, all of those teachings, they've been interfered many times. And what they've been trying to do is get us to reach a consciousness which is beyond 60, 78, maybe even 90. So this is another opportunity for us to grasp and to understand that we are getting ready to be galactic citizens. We're ready to reconnect to the universal time. So this is an opportunity that I hope all of you take advantage of and be present on what is going on.
Right, and as we've just got this chart up here, just going to point out a couple of other things to take into account. We have Orcus, the oath breaker, the contract maker, also still very much in that opposition to Saturn and now Venus too. And I think this is a moment, like Bella said, this is a moment to review all old contracts. In fact, our plant of this wave spell will help us with that, and we'll look at that in a second. But to review all things that no longer serve us, contracts, whether it's at the interpersonal level, whether it's maybe in professional levels, and to decide, does this serve me anymore? Do I need to let it go? Do I need to renegotiate it?
Even of previous timelines.
Even of previous timelines, right? All of which is coming into a culmination point right now. So just wanted to point that out. Have included here also Yeshua's counterpart, Sophia, who, as we've noticed, and I think mentioned before, is in this sort of ongoing sextile with Yeshua, supporting what he is up to on this Cazimi.
It's like he's opening the way for the Sophia energy to come through.
Right, and I think the Sophia asteroid moves slightly faster with Yeshua. I did do some checking on this, but it seems to be in a sextile formation for a while, and it has been for a while, so it may be that they do move at slightly different speeds. But currently in this moment, they are supporting each other, which I think is really beautiful. We also here included two other aspects, Merlin of Yeshua and Magdalene of Sophia, who have been having a conversation, perhaps trying to right anything that perhaps wasn't working for them as a couple. Merlin perhaps is another aspect of Yeshua, maybe further down the road, maybe after he'd spent some hundreds of years living in Britain. Maybe he didn't like the climate there so much, and maybe he became a bit of a grumpy old wizard or something, and perhaps Magdalene was not enjoying that, and they needed to have a little chat, possibly to renegotiate their contract, which, by the way, is in an aspect there, both to both of them. So we can have a little bit of fun with this, and do something.
I see that you found the Skywalker asteroid.
Yeah. Okay, so this was very personal to me, but I know there are quite a few other Skywalkers who watch this show. Lo and behold, there is an asteroid called Skywalker. I've included it here for some fun purposes. I haven't done too much of a dive into it myself, but of course my glyph in the Mayan world is the Skywalker, and I know quite a few of you out there have that glyph too. So perhaps we continue to decode what some of these new asteroids coming into our awareness mean. They are like more nuances, of course, of the bigger planets and haven't been studied as much, but there are a lot of them out there. And the more that we look, quantum style, the more they appear.
Yeah.
So
I think to finish the part of the astrology, maybe let's pay attention to what house is all of this happening. Like, where do you have Aquarius? Where do you have Pisces? Because those are the areas that I think are going to have the most transformation from now on.
Right, and we can also see just here on this particular chart by the 21st of January that the nodes have shifted signs in the Western astrology, not in sidereal because the nodes are already in Pisces, but they have just shifted it and coming into a now in sign conjunction with Neptune. So things are getting a little kind of clustered there in Pisces, and of course Venus will be conjuncting Neptune quite soon, and Saturn will also be going into a big conjunction with Neptune, which I think is going to round out a lot of the energies of the old paradigm, as a lot of those energies then move into a new cycle in Aries.
I absolutely feel this is the beginning of the new Earth, of the new Earth cycle, of the new reconnection to the cosmos. But it's down to us to do our work and to understand the teachings, the technology, and everything that is available now. The quantum is always there. It's always been there. The ether is there. But it's about our inner work and being able to connect to those frequencies.
Right. So that takes us pretty much to the final part of the show. A little bit longer today, perhaps, but a lot of energy abounding. And as you can see from our own excitement and what we've shared, we believe this is a very, very important moment. And so we sat and pondered which planet to call in. And this is the lady that showed up. She is actually our guide and guardian for the energy and element of ether that we're currently working with as the final part of the Heaven on Earth program. And this is a beautiful plant that I know many of you out there also love and work with as well, but maybe she's new for you. She is Tulsi, the incomparable one, sacred basil. And she is a high-powered adaptogen, and like a more native adaptogen nettle, supports meditative practices because that's what adaptogens do. They bring us back into a place of balance, which is partly why she's our guardian for the ether element, because if we're not in a place of balance when we enter into the ether world, things could get a little choppy. She is very much revered, of course, in India, where she is an embodiment of a goddess energy and is venerated in that way. And of course, you'll often see people praying like this to Tulsi plants outside of temples in India. In fact, most people in India have Tulsi somewhere in and around their house because of its protective qualities. It does promote feelings of love and compassion. This is the goddess energy again that we're talking about. Does enhance spiritual growth and self-awareness, which I think are all very much things that we need right now to help us work with these powerful energies. She does protect against negative energies. There could be a lot of stuff being released as the light is shone into the underworld. And we want to make sure that we're not going to pick those up or absorb them from anybody else that may be going through a process of realization and release. And most of all, in relation to what we just said about that opposition between Venus and Saturn and Orcus, she is the keeper of the Book of Souls and soul contracts in the way that I have worked with her. And so if we still think we may have outstanding contracts that either need to be released or perhaps renegotiated, we can go into meditational space working with the beautiful energy of Tulsi, maybe with a tincture or a tea, or maybe just to eat. You can, of course, pick Tulsi. She is a basil and put her in your food, but also I think a tea would be nice. And we can go into that meditational space and call her in and ask her to help us review our contracts. Or if we still have pieces of ourselves on other timelines that still haven't come back to us to be reintegrated, she will also help us with that.
I love or I prefer the essential oils, and I think the Tulsi or it's probably one of the most magical ones, most magical, because you can use it for your meditation practice, for protection, as you said. But I think it's one of those that help us connect farther up to higher dimensions.
Right, and I see here on this image that I've used that they put art is nirvana, so a slightly different take on time is that, but I think that we're all on the same page there. And also just wanted to include a few more practical, sort of physical aspects of Tulsi, also known as the Queen of Herbs. Again, we can see in the artwork just how much people love this plant and how much she's revered. But interestingly, and in this moment, given some of what may be released as part of the disclosure coming from the underworld, this plant can help protect against the toxic effects of industrial chemicals, pesticides, drugs, heavy metals, including mercury, arsenic, chromium, cadmium, and lead, as well as many others.
Wow.
Very, very high-powered healing plant, this. I think very much embodying in many ways, Bella, the energy of the female serpent. Lineage from the stellar nations. She also protects against the toxic effects of radiation.
Wow.
Hopefully we won't be needing that, but it has been in the news a little bit recently. On the positive side, she also has shown antimicrobial action. This includes all of the following: antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, anti-protozoal, anti-malarial, and anti-felmintic. So really that's lots of fancy words there saying that this plant does us a lot of good. And we can simplify that down to she reduces anxiety, depression, and stress. Myself and the brother Pete have talked about this plant quite a lot on other shows before, and no need to repeat too much of what's been said there. But also to understand that this plant also contains a variety of essential vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients. Hence why adaptogen, this plant is wanting to bring us back to a place of harmony and balance, but also very much imbued with the energy of the goddess.
Indeed.
So that also just as a little segue into something that just started this week on a Skywalking Day, of course, which is the Flying School. The first time we presented this here on QPW. Really lovely group of people that we're working with, teaching how to work with sacred plant medicine, particularly these two here, which we can see in the pictures, medicines I've worked with for a long time, or we're going to call them sacred plant technologies, because we are working with these higher dimensional intelligences, quantum plant intelligences. And this is a 4-part course that will have a new live call presentation every 13 days. We literally just did the first one yesterday. That's available to watch back. And the next class will be live on January the 29th, where we'll be getting into how to navigate your journey, orientating your inner compass and using discernment as you start to lift out of your 3D consciousness into these other realms of consciousness that me and Bella have been talking about today. And we have been long protagonists of this, Bella, since we launched the quantum plant healing and working with plants in general, including plants like Tulsi. I talk about how to work with these two sacred technologies, these plant technologies, in conjunction with plants like Tulsi, so that we can really feel the effects of communication with these other aspects of nature. So that's underway. If you want to find out more details, I'll put the link in the show notes. It seems to have disappeared from this slide for some reason, but I'll put those in the show notes. And if you have any questions, please do put them in the comments box or email me directly. And just to round out this, of course, we are still now in the very, very final stages of what has been an incredibly powerful process working with the Heaven on Earth course. You want to say anything, Bella, about this to round out?
Well, one of the things that I'm sure the people that have joined us in our immersions, in our courses and everything, they know that we also go through the process. Even though we are guiding it, I wouldn't say teaching it, but guiding it, we also experience everything that happens with whatever download we're getting about this process. So Heaven on Earth has been again magical. We've integrated the four elements, and we're about to go into the ether, which is bringing all of this information that we're sharing about the Christ consciousness, about the crystalline grid network, about so many other things. The downloads are absolutely unstoppable now. So we're very excited because there is more guidance and more of a clear compass moving forward, and so much coherence in everything we've been doing from the very beginning up to now. All of the dots have finally joined.
Right. And, interestingly for us, we had already decided to release the final module, the ether element, of course, very much about ideas and channeling, blueprints and inspiration from the other realms of consciousness. We had already decided to release it on the 19th of January, ahead of some of the other big action happening here in North America, way before we found out about the Yeshua Cazimi. So that just added a little bit of icing on the cake. And we will be releasing that module to coincide with that Yeshua Cazimi, because we believe it's all about the ether energy right now and how we're going to work with that ether energy in a mindful, coherent, respectful, and compassionate way to bring heaven to earth, and not just temporarily, but moving forward, because that is what we used to exist in. And I think many of us would be happy if we decided to revert back to that place. So that is it really, Bella. I think just you wanted to mention the navigation guide, something that we've completed and many of our tribe have completed, and really forms the 13 steps to kind of etheric awareness, we can say.
To quantum consciousness.
To quantum consciousness.
So if you're wondering about all of this material that we have and you want a good place to start, it's either with the Mayan Time and Magic and or this navigation guide to quantum consciousness. It's a great way to start, to give the first steps. And then after that, you can go into the rest of whether it's stellar nations or the heaven on earth. This is a good starting point if you want to learn about the 13 tones, about sacred geometry, about dimensions, and much more.
Right, and in the tradition of Jose Arguelles, really what this course does is allow us, once we've completed it, it is a very precisely encrypted course. It's very, very powerful. I think it's one of the most powerful things I've ever been involved in. It switches on our hollow mind perceiver, or our halo, which is another way of saying that we can activate more permanently the Christo time traveling consciousness. So all of these courses we've been putting out on QPW, they have been initiations. Our tribe brothers and sisters who've been doing them, like us, are no longer the same people they were a couple of years ago. And it's been a powerful, intense series of initiations. But we feel that we're in a place to receive now these energies that we've been talking about, because we've been doing a lot of our shadow work, making sure that we are clear vessels, grails, we can say, or in the traditions of some of the shamanic cultures, a hollow bone. And able now to create that direct connection permanently between the 3D and the rest of ourselves.
And I want to take the opportunity here to say thank you to everybody who's taking part, especially in this course, because we've had amazing testimonials, and we know that you're not the same once you complete this navigation guide. So thank you, and for supporting us in general.
Really. Right, and like most things in the kind of esoteric world, you can't really know what it's going to be like until you finished it. And we said right at the beginning when we were putting this together, we weren't going to be the same people after we finished the 13 steps, and we're not at all. For anyone who's been following our story over the last 12 months, of course, with my accident and everything, we were laying out this pathway whilst I was going through the healing process. And of course, I can now almost walk fully again. So everything has a reason, everything happens exactly when it's meant to, and that is the beauty of working with plants like dandelion, of course. So as we come to the end of the show, let's just stop the share. Like I say, a little bit longer today. So thank you everyone for bearing with us. We hope that you can receive the information that we're channeling and transmitting to you now. We do believe it's this important, and we really want to encourage all of you to find how that resonates within you, so that you can also mirror that back to the collective process, because where one goes, we all go. And that is really the imperative of the moment that we're in. And we have to be in that place of love and compassion to help those fellow beings, maybe who still have some work to do to release themselves from the underworld in these coming days. So I think that it's important to be in that frequency, right, Bella?
So be fearless and finish this part of the job is about bringing light to your underworld. What is the last part of you that needs the light so that we can embody this yellow warrior that is here to establish the communication and the reconnection with the cosmos. And that's what we're waiting for, to become cosmic Jedis.
Right, and the time is now, and the time is art. And I think that perhaps we can all start to not just dream idly here and there about a different world, but actually take decisive action at the personal level. Everything starts with you, the individual, and then you fractal that out to the world around you. And certainly that's what we've been doing ourselves and seeing our world change and our tribes, people's worlds change as well. And we want the whole world to change. We have been sent here in these times, and probably most of you watching this video, to do the same, to help hold the space whilst this new Earth transition does this big piece. And it's nothing to be scared of. In fact, there's a lot to be excited about. But many people might find it a little challenging, and we're going to have to hold space for those beings whilst they go through that. But hopefully it won't take too long. We understand from the powerful beings upstairs that as much of the suffering that could have happened has been mitigated down to virtually nothing. That is why many people have expected so many things to have happened by now that haven't happened. They were taken off the table one by one because they weren't necessary. We collectively found a different way to see our way through this process. And I take a lot of heart from that, Bella, and perhaps that's my final message for today.
Okay, so big changes, exciting times, and let's all get ready to do what we came to do. All right?
In Lakesh, everybody.
Thank you
We
for
are another
watching.
year.
Bye.
Bye.